تابستون پارسال
Towards the end of the summer 2022, I started wearing short sleeves outside, but with a lot of fear and apprehension. I'd carry my headscarf in my hand. It wasn't easy, at least not at the time. The city's atmosphere wasn't very sympathetic, unlike the situation a few months later. I was checking Twitter. The news said the situation seemed dire. The girl was in the hospital, severely injured, and her condition didn't seem good. Her name was Mahsa Amini. By then, she had slipped into a coma. A picture from the hospital had been released, and after that picture, the extent of the physical harm and the blow she had suffered seemed much more serious. It seemed they had finally done the deed. Gina seemed to be gone. Gina, or Mahsa Amini, was exactly the same age as my sister who is the dearest person to me. The thought of her being killed is unbearable. I can't sit here alone. I need to mourn. I need to be with people who at least sympathize with me.
کسی از ما رو کشته بودن.
They killed one of us. How can I sit still? I went to face the monster.
من رسیدم در بیمارستان کسرا.
I arrived at the entrance of Kasra Hospital. I saw a girl standing at the top of the stairs. With a clear voice and incredible courage, she began shouting, "You are murderers. You want to kill us women. You want us women to cease to exist. Start with me. You are killers." I remember a man there, a relatively respectable man in a suit. He stood in front of us and began saying, "Yes, bravo, what a brave girl." He kept trying to give directions to everyone. I turned and asked, "Who are you? Where are you from?" He replied, "Why are you getting angry? I'm on your side." He was quite strange. I told the others to ignore him. The police, who were standing on the other side of the street, dressed in plainclothes, were truly sinister looking. They surrounded us and began telling the girl, "Go away, ma'am, you can't stay here." I said, "No. What do you want with her? I won't let you take her. Just leave us alone for a minute. What is she saying that's so wrong?" The female officers couldn't handle us, so a man came and grabbed the girl by the collar, lifting her up, and threw her into a large white van. He then turned to me. He grabbed my scarf, which was tied around my neck, and suddenly pulled it, choking me. He lifted me up and then threw me into the van. At that moment, I realized how a girl like Mahsa could be killed in this process. An angry and prejudiced man can easily throw a woman into a van in such a way that her head hits a hard object. It was a terrible shock. I was never really a street fighter. All the buttons on my clothes had come undone. Inside the van, there was me, the girl they had taken before me, and a female morality police officer. Inside the van, they asked, "Do you want some water? Should we get you some?" I don't know if this was their usual approach or if they were genuinely scared that day. We entered the morality police building. I had no idea what was in store for me. I was having panic attacks. My body was shaking. One of them came and asked, "Why are you shaking?" I said what I had witnessed wasn't normal. Then he told someone, "Bring her some water." The other one said, "Should I add some sugar? Have her sugar levels dropped?" I think this kind of attention was because of their fear that day. They took me to a hall where they instruct women how and why they must wear the hijab. The same place in the video where Mahsa Amini passed out. Thankfully, I hadn't seen that video at that point, or I really couldn't have handled the moment I was there. A woman came and stood beside me, and I began asking, "What are you doing to us? Who are you? What have we done to you? What are we? I swear to God, we're humans too. We have lives. What are you doing to us? Are we bad people?" She began to comfort me. I looked up and saw tears in her eyes, and seeing this made me feel even worse. The woman began saying, "What can I say? A person chooses a job, not knowing what will happen in it. Then they begin doing it and see it's not what they wanted. It's not what they thought." Then suddenly the door opened and another female morality police officer came in, turned to the woman and asked anxiously, "Is she okay?" I said I was fine. She then looked into my eyes and said with a hint of defiance, "Ma'am, we didn't kill her. I swear to God, we didn't touch her, ma'am. By God, we didn't do anything to her. We don't know what happened. She just fell. Ma'am, it wasn't our fault. We will have a guilty conscience for the rest of our lives. Do you think we can live easily now?" When I tell this story to my friends, they say they were scared. They had been reprimanded. My friends are probably right. Sometime later, they came for us. They took me and the other detained women to the security police building on Tehran's Nilufar Square. We were still sitting on chairs and I noticed that man in a suit who I saw at the hospital. He was sitting in the hall next to us and seemed at ease. We were just sitting there. The man started speaking sarcastically and with a mocking laugh. "Oh dear, what are you ladies up to? You've turned the city upside down." An older woman sitting next to me responded, "Did they arrest you too?" Then the man looked at one of the uniformed police officers, gave him a smile, and the officer smiled back. He then said, "Yes, they arrested me too. I was with you. They got me too." A woman seemed to be out of breath, and some others said, "You're killing her too. Her condition is bad." One of the police officers came and said, "All right, we will take her to that room and give her an injection to make her feel better." They called the woman, and a few minutes later, they called me. I walked down the corridor and glanced at the rooms, seeing no beds or medical equipment where they might treat someone. I entered the middle room, where a police officer was sitting with a phone in his hand. He was calling someone saying, "I'll read you some national ID numbers and you check their records." He checked the records for the woman who was feeling unwell and whom they had arrested first. He exclaimed, "Oh boy, she has quite a record," and then said, "You're staying with us for now." They gave us some papers. Information and questions were written on them. The female police officer sat next to us and wrote 3 separate questions on each paper. Where did you hear about the protests? Do you have a criminal record? And which foreign countries have you visited? They also brought another form which required signatures and fingerprints. An older man in a black shirt asked, "Are you done?" I said yes. He said, "Go." I was relieved, thinking, thank God they didn't hold me longer. They had no idea how complicated things would get. They never imagined it, otherwise they wouldn't have let me go so easily that day.